Everybody, so today, as you can see, we got the 2016 Focus RS right here, and I've decided to make an install video of cold air intake made by Mountune. I did buy this. I'm not in no way affiliated with Mountune. I just wanted to make a how-to video that everybody could watch. Now, you can buy the Mountune parts separately. I for myself went for a kit which came with a recirculation valve and some tuning equipment. As far as the air intake system goes, that came as a full kit also. That's going to include your aluminum crossover pipe shown right here with all of the stock fittings for the vacuum line and the secures. The silicone beefed up replacement fitting that's going to go from the end of the intake to the turbo side of the intake. The design curved piece of silicone that is going to go from the anodized intake into the air inbox. And also the Mountune cone, which is going to go into the air box. Now mind you, all these pieces came with their own worm gears. Now Mountune has made this a very easy install, requiring very few tools. First tool we're going to need is a 1/4 inch ratchet, an extension for your 1/4 inch ratchet, a 7mm socket to pull the stock worm gears off, an 8mm socket to secure the new Mountune worm gears on, a flathead screwdriver, and a trim tool. Now the flathead screwdriver will suffice if you do not have a trim tool to pull the vacuum lines off. I prefer to use the trim tool, but it can be done with the flathead screwdriver. If you cannot get it off with that, you should be able to get it off with your hands and enough elbow grease. Now to start the install, the first thing we're going to have to do is take the engine cover off. This is held on by 4 rubber grommets and pegs. Pop it up here, I want to pop it up back here, and I want to pop it up here. You're off. Set that to the side for now, then we'll move on to the next part. Now with the second part of the installation, you're going to have to get this vacuum line separated from the stock intake. This first piece right here, you can see, just pulls right out of this loop. The second piece is connected by a rosebud to the stock intake, which is hard to get to with any kind of tooling. So what I usually do is unclip that piece and just set it out of the way. We can replace that on the new intake once we get it set in, and then clip it right back in with ease, instead of spending time trying to work our way back there and try and pop it out. One thing that I did fail to mention earlier on is we have this vacuum hose we've been working around. You can also press in on these 2 white centers here. There's one on the front, one on the back. Give a little bit of compression, pull that right off, get it out of the way. It makes life much easier. You can do it without it, but you're going to have a lot more problems trying to route everything. So you might as well take that off. That way you don't damage anything when you're installing the new Mountune kit. The next thing we're going to do is remove the intake. We're going to start with these worm gears, which is a 7mm head socket. Sure, and start spinning those off. Now we're going to move on to removing the air box. Now using the same 7mm socket with the extension on the 1/4 inch ratchet, we're going to go ahead and remove the bolts. One's located here, one's located here, one's located here where we're going to need the extension, and then we have another one located way back here, if you can see that. We're also going to need the extension on that. It's in the back corner. Now in the airbox, you do not need to fully remove each one of the screws. Just loosen them up until you can feel that it comes tight. The top of the airbox may be a little bit tight to pull off, but once you break that initial seal, it's going to pop off just like that. And we're going to go ahead and set it right over by the engine cover so we don't lose any parts. Make sure all of our screws are still attached. This was the back one, the other back one, and the 2 front ones. After the top's off the airbox, then it's easy. You just grab this corner over here and pull it in an outward position, and you'll be able to remove the stock cone just like that. Plastic, flat on one side, just an inner. For comparison, we have the Mountune unit, which is coned on the outside of it for better flow. Also the inside, and a much more durable fin construction here. At this point, we can go ahead and put the Mountune air filter into the box before we do the rest of this. What you're going to want to do is make sure your worm gear clamp is a little bit forward when you set it in so you have room to tighten it. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. Go around the original area it's supposed to, and then you might have to give it a little bit push forward just so it sits flush in the box, exactly how the stock one did. Now changing over to a 10mm socket, we are going to loosen the stock exhaust pipe from the valve cover. Then from this point, since we've already loosened our worm gears, we've disconnected the bolt that holds the stock tubing on from the valve cover. We could start removing the stock pipe by first pulling it out here in the front where it goes to the air cooler. And then by pulling it out from the back section right there. I'm going to go ahead and remove these two pieces off of this induction pipe here. The worm's gear loose. Go ahead and just twisting motion, pull it off. And for what it's worth, personally, I found it easier to go ahead and set these two couplers on here before putting the aluminum piece of pipe in. Making sure that both of these clamps are facing towards you at the bottom, and then on the other side, the orientation of the clamps is going to be downward on this back clamp, and the orientation of this clamp is basically just going to be anywhere that it's out of the way. Now that we've got everything set in place, we're going to go ahead and take this vacuum line, and we are going to re-put it through the rosebud connection, and we're going to attach it to the Mountune provided slip over connection right here. After all of that is done, we can then snap it back into place. Alright guys, now that we've fully installed and tightened all the worm gears on this intake, until it's structurally sound here, this is all tightened down, we're going to go ahead and put the air box back on. The same exact way we took it off, 4 bolts retaining it. Then we're going to go ahead and put the engine cover back on, 4 pins. Alright guys, now that we got it all put back together, and sorry if I was a little off on this video, this is the first time I've ever made a video on assembling. I have a recirculation valve, a trans mount, a whole bunch of stuff going on with this car. I've been dealing with the Focuses since the MK1s. They had an SVT, I did a whole upper end build and a lower end build on it. Mark II, did a lower end build on it for turbo. And just getting started with this guy. I hope everybody liked the recording of today's video. I do have more to come. If you have any input or comments, please leave them below. As I said, this is my first time making videos, especially with modifications on a vehicle. Using a larger camera, having to change lenses, it gets kind of difficult. So any future comments would be wellly accepted. And I just figured that the RS community would like videos like this up, where there's not too many of them. Again, if you like it, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, everything. I appreciate it. Have a great day.